Hey guys, I'm Travesty,
And I'm the Freak Joe.
and we continue on through Indiana as we go through our cemetery vlogs for this cemetery series. And we ended up here at Memory Garden Cemetery in Rensselaer, Indiana, right off of Clark Street.
That's right. Memory Garden Cemetery is located in Newton Township in Rensselaer in Jasper County. There are around 3,000 interments going back to the early 1900s. So this is a relatively new cemetery on our list compared to some of the other ones.
Yeah. I think out of them, I think this may be the newest one. A lot of the ones were late 1800s. I think even mid 1800s if you're going back to like 1850, 1860. But this cemetery has probably the most. I don't know if the word mosaic is right, but like those. What word am I looking for, Joe?
I'm not sure what the word is, but the big sort of portraits, but
yes.
made of stone.
Yeah, because and you see a lot of it in the bigger cemeteries where they separate sections out into like certain types of gardens. You're going to see as we go through this cemetery that they did the exact same thing here, even though it's kind of a smaller area. Not known to be one of the bigger cemeteries in the area. They separated out into, it looks like, about 5 or 6 different areas. They do have a kid's garden or a child's garden, whatever those areas are called, that we're going to kind of look at as well. You see all these tombs and everything, that they have these mausoleums or whatever they're called. I don't know the proper term for them.
Yeah. I don't know why mausoleum or tomb feels right, but yeah.
I know they're entombed.
Right.
So that could be something.
Yeah.
But this is also one of those that has like probably more newer stones than any other one. We didn't see a lot of old dated stones that we see. Garden of the Good Shepherd is an perfect example of the different sections that the cemetery offers. You see that they have the stones and burials outside of the gardens as well as in. As we walk through, you kind of see the that art piece that's in the back there.
Yeah, and it does seem to be some kind of memorial portrait, or it's a way of separating this garden from the other gardens. All of the gardens in the cemetery, just about all of the gardens, I should say, have one of these stones with a portrait on it that references what the theme of the space is. So this is the Garden of the Good Shepherd. So as we get closer to this memorial stone, you'll see an image of the Christ figure with sheep. So because he's the Good Shepherd. So another thing I wanted to bring up, we saw that footage of the statue as we turned toward this. This cemetery is known for having 2 statues of Jesus. A lot of people seem to not know that it's Jesus. That in the research we did, it's just referred to as a saint that sometimes moves its head or hands. We didn't get to see that. Our best guess, from like a rational perspective, if you want to rationalize it, is that the 2 statues are slightly different from each other, looking in different directions and with different hand shapes. And so maybe, even though they're wildly different statues, maybe people are remembering incorrectly and seeing 2 different statues and just conflating the 2. But we don't know. It is entirely possible. And if you've been to the cemetery and you've seen the statues move, please let us know. Tell us about it. Leave it in the comments.
Yeah, and it was interesting when we were learning about that, because like you hear of like the bleeding eye statues. I don't hear a lot about like statues moving.
Right.
But it was unique to hear about that, especially this being the second cemetery in our vlog. How you hear like now these are like more of the far-fetched, out of reach things. You hear about orbs and mist, noises and stuff are very common. And yeah, this artwork and these gardens that you guys are seeing are actually pretty incredible. And they look awesome. Like they look like they're really well kept. This one, the Last Supper. One thing I noticed that I didn't until now that we're doing doing the recap of them is other than the border of the gardens, these are all like the placards, the in the ground. They don't have tombstones other than lining the barrier of it. So I thought that was kind of pretty unique how they did that way. But yeah, you don't hear too much about moving statues. You hear more about orbs and mist, and obviously, honestly, we didn't hear about those stories at this cemetery. Like, there is no stories about orbs moving around or noises or mist or anything like that. It was really focused on these statues, these Jesus statues. That one is obviously in the dead center, as you saw when we pulled in, and then the other one I believe is on the south east corner.
That sounds right.
I think.
Yeah, and there are lights on these statues, and you can see them from the highway. And so maybe the light is playing tricks on you, or maybe something else. And I'm not trying to remove the mysticism from it, because I think there's something wonderful about being frightened.
Yeah.
And of connecting with the beyond, right? I mean, there's something special about that. There's something uniquely human about being able to think about connecting with those who have gone before us.
Yeah, and this is obviously the Jesus statue in the corner of the cemetery that we mentioned, which is also unique because I've never seen a Jesus statue in this presence, like how it's standing with the long clothes and everything. Usually, he's representative on a cross and
right.
everything like that, but this one's a little bit different. It's kind of unique. It has John, I think it was 11:25, on the resurrection of the life, and obviously we didn't stay on there long enough for me to read it.
Right.
But,
yeah, he that believeth in me, though he were dead, shall yet live. And it does seem like this is not just a statue. Based on the way those stones are, I'm guessing that there are ashes interred inside of that.
Yeah, we did kind of wonder why they were interred into that statue, why them over other people. Couldn't find any information on it. So I don't know if it was they were part of the cemetery in some way, and or they donated, and maybe that's why the statue was built and they're entombed in it. But it's also pretty cool to see things like that we don't really see that are considered common.
Yeah, typically when you have people with ashes, there's a whole section of the cemetery that's specifically devoted to that. And it's a place where you can sort of walk and look at the walls and things, and visit with people. So I don't know, it was interesting.
Yeah, Garden of Prayer, another section of the cemetery, as I mentioned, that they kind of split everything off. I think these were a little bit older than the ones we saw on the other side. As we're walking in and everything, again, we got the artwork in the back, but I think that is just an individual picture, where the rest of them were kind of like multiple people over a scene in the Bible.
Right.
This one, just praying hands,
Yep.
which I think is really cool. I think those are actually the same hands I have on my arm. Well, I think they're going to be on my arm. But I just really like how they did this. Like I said, it's not common to see smaller cemeteries like this separate everything the way they did into different sections. The fact that they did this and everything is really cool. And, I mean, one thing we learned a lot doing these vlogs is how layouts and everything are in cemeteries. You look at some of the older ones, it's just an open field and people are just buried there. Well, when you get to the newer cemeteries like this one, or even Mount Hope Cemetery that we're going to see and stuff like that, there's a way that's laid out, and I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's definitely something where they have thought about it instead of just sort of burying people as they die. Each section of the cemetery is well thought out and well laid out, and people are laid to rest in a formation that makes sense and uses the space as well as it can be used.
Yeah. This is the kids area. I forget what the sign says. What there? The Garden of the Angels. Again, I think this is a newer concept that cemeteries have done. Where in the older cemeteries that we did visit and we have seen, it more or less kids are buried with their families right next to their families, and a lot of these were older too, dating back to the 1950s, 1960s, all the way up until current year. Like I said, it's still an active cemetery. People are still buried there today. So it's sad, obviously, seeing areas of the cemetery like this. But I think the way the cemetery is so well kept, so well maintained. It does offer a great amount of respect to those who are laid to rest here.
Absolutely.
Give you guys a chance to kind of look at everything we're looking at. Obviously, the Garden of Angels stab. I don't know what the hell it's.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to call it. Maybe monument stone or memorial stone or something.
I want to go statue, but I'm like, I know it's not a statue.
Right?
I'm with you. It's definitely not a statue, but yeah, monument stone. I mean, obviously they have the road sign, but to have that as well, I think it's pretty cool that they do that. This is more of the open area of the cemetery. I think this might be the last part of the cemetery that we have to show. And one of the biggest focus is the back corner, because almost every corner of the cemetery has some kind of big concrete or cement display to it. And I think this is one of the cooler ones. This is actually the one that we saw coming in from the back end, where the sign to the cemetery was.
Right.
So I thought that was pretty cool too. That this is where you're gonna see from the road, and again, this is right off of Clark Street in Rensselaer, so it's right there, so you won't be able to miss it coming down the road and everything. And the fact that this is just basically the Bible, I thought was one of the coolest things ever. Like there was no artistic designs or anything; it's literally just showing the Bible. The counsel of the Lord standeth forever. That's Psalms 33:31.
Yeah, and I like that they chose a stone that looks like an old leather Bible cover. It's really it's a really cool cemetery. I recommend checking it out. One thing that people used to do that they simply really don't do anymore is here's the other Jesus statue, which is very different from the other one. Notice his hands are down by his side and sort of a come to me motion. This is typically in art, this is a representation of I'm your friend, I'm a comfort, please come toward me. Whereas the other one, his arms are up and out, which is more of a symbol of his power, right?
Yeah, and I think to kind of give you guys some context on what you're seeing right now, the reason you see us talking but don't hear us, and you're hearing us the way we are now, is because there was an audio issue with the camera when we were doing these vlogs. So everything that we said and did, it wasn't picked up on the camera. That's why we're doing voiceover. So if you caught the vlogs last time that we did, that's why they're different today. But the thing is, this was the only footage we got of the other statue in the cemetery, and I felt that I couldn't not include that into the But if you guys remembered earlier in the video, if you want to go back and check it out, when we went to the other Jesus statue that the people were entombed in, those are the two statues that we believe people are getting mixed up and how they're looking different and everything.
Yeah.
Again, different position, hands opened up on this one compared to the other one, but still has kind of like that cloak walking around a little bit different.
Yeah, definitely a resurrected, glorified Christ. And we're about out of time, but I did want to just finish up my thought there. People used to have picnics and parties in cemeteries as a way to be close to their relatives, and also because these were green spaces that were available, sort of like parks. And so if you wanted to have a picnic in a cemetery, this would be a one to do it at. There's lots of open green space. There's lots of places to sit and visit with each other and the dead.
Absolutely. Guys, thank you for hanging out with us as we're going forward in our cemetery vlogs.
Hit that notification bell.